Bienvenue à cette session qui fait partie donc du volet apprentissage intégré en milieu du travail. Welcome to this session. This is part of the French track, apprentissage intégré en milieu de travail. The talk will be given in English, but the presenters are very happy to take questions in French afterwards or explain anything in French if you have any questions. My name is Christine York, so I'm a lecturer in the Département d'études françaises here at Concordia in the Faculty of Arts and Science, and I'm also coordinator of the co-op program in translation. I'm pleased to present our two speakers, Sarah Plouffe and Benoît Tessier. Ms. Plouffe is director of the Student Work Placement Program at the federal government, and she holds an MA in Measurement and Evaluation from the University of Ottawa and a BA in Education from the Université du Québec en Outaouais. Benoît Tessier is Director General at Employment and Social Development Canada. He holds an MA in Political Science from University of Ottawa and is a Policy Fellow at the Education Policy Research Institute, also at the University of Ottawa. The talk will be about 55 minutes long today. Thank you very much.
Merci. So, good morning, I guess. Good early, late morning. Merci beaucoup d'être présent. On a fait un changement de salle à la dernière minute. Je crois que l'intérêt pour la session était grand comparativement à l'autre salle d'avant, donc merci. La présentation d'aujourd'hui va faire un survol du programme qu'on gère au gouvernement fédéral. But we were talking about work integrated learning last night at dinner with a few colleagues. Val was there, and commenting on the fact that a few years ago, the concept of work integrated learning was a bit obscure for many people. And look at the road that the concept made and how we're all talking about this now, and the country's talking about this. So the presentation today will give a bit of an overview of the momentum that we gained, at least at the federal government level, compared to when Sarah and I started to work on this in 2014, and our stakeholders and people were looking at us strangely when we were talking about WIL. So
integrated what?
so the momentum that we gained, but also so a lot of work has been done from our perspective anyway. But there's a lot more probably left ahead of us, and I'll be talking about that as well in the presentation. So, Sarah.
Thank you, Benoît. Thank you to all of you for being here today. We're very happy and excited to be here to be able to talk a little bit about our early lessons learned and some of our early successes for the program. Benoît and I and our team, of course, we've all been working really hard for a few years to set this up, and we're already thinking about how we can work collaboratively in the future to keep building the momentum and growing WIL opportunities over the years to come. I haven't tried the clicker. So we really want to position Canada as a world leader, as Benoît said, in work integrated learning, and are happy to be part of this journey with all of you. So first, I'd like to say, I guess, that we learned a lot about the WIL landscape in the last few years, talking to so many partners that are active in this ecosystem. And of course, we all know that PSC institutions are at the core of offering student work placements that are of great quality for students. And they see all of the clear benefits, as do the students. And so we didn't need to convince them. They were already on this track. Organizations like the CWIL have also contributed quite significantly to the development of WIL and co-op over the last few years. And I'm sure that their new, broader mandate will ensure that they can continue to guide and support and inform the way that WIL develops in this country for years to come. Recognizing that education is clearly a provincial jurisdiction, as we keep the relationships going with, as the federal government, with all of the PT governments, and we liaise with them, we really see that they're also working very hard on their side to develop and align programs and policies to keep building the work-integrated learning opportunities and foster and support the opportunities for more WIL in the PSC institutions. As we understood early on also, hearing from co-op coordinators, maybe such as yourselves, and heads of universities and colleges, one of the substantive barriers that was hindering the progression of having more work-integrated learning opportunities offered to students was really the presence or the participation of employers in this game. We recognized, we heard that quite significant resources were being expanded by the universities or institutions to promote and kind of incentivize employers to come to the table to offer more work placements. And with partners such as the Business Higher Education Roundtable from the Business Council, we saw that the federal government could endeavor in creating a program that would really help that side of the equation, bringing really our role to connect with employers, even the small ones, to offer more work-integrated learning opportunities to students. So working together with BEER, as I mentioned, I think we can all help convince and inform employers of all sizes and from all industry sectors about the benefits of WIL. And that's not an easy task, but I think we're heading in the right direction already. Accessing local talent pools now and hooking up to the talent pipeline for the future is really critical to the survival and growth of all businesses. And businesses that already offer WIL, I think, are convincingly saying that that's exactly what WIL offers to their business in terms of recruitment of talent. The Student Work Placement Program. So it's tricky, but it was referred to as SWILP for a long time, the Student Work Integrated Learning Program. And in the last year, I guess, it was kind of launched as the SWILP, but in the last year, we have slowly but surely shortened the name a little bit just to make it clearer and easier for everyone to recognize the nature of the program. So it is, and will be more so in the future, referenced as the Student Work Placement Program now. So as I mentioned, it was started about a year ago, and it's delivered through strong sector consortia representing employers, and they are responsible for mainly two activities. One is, of course, creating more quality placements, new and incremental placements, not placements that would have otherwise, without our funding, happened anyways. And they do that by recruiting new employers to offer placements to students, and they can offer those employers a wage subsidy in terms of an incentive. The, the other main activity that they are responsible for, employer consortia, or our delivery partners, as we like to refer to them, is to support the partnerships, the creation of new partnerships between business and education. I think we really fought to keep that component of our program, or to have it integrated to our program and not just offer a wage subsidy to employers. We really felt as though there was benefits in connecting the education world to the employers more directly, in order to create a more lasting and long-term systemic change in the overall ecosystem. So the program started a year ago. It's a 4-year program. We hope, of course, that it goes on for longer, but that was the announcement. And we are already fully committed. Funds are fully committed for the first 4 years. And we have, most of our projects, I think, are oversubscribed. We keep getting calls for more money and more opportunities, and we'll work very hard to try to make that happen. one achievement, so this is, I guess, up here, the list of the active projects. That's not where I was going with my notes, but okay. So one achievement, okay. So one achievement that we are extra proud of is actually reaching the proportion of under-rep students. The program offers an enhanced wage subsidy to employers to offer under-rep students the equal opportunities. And so employers are offered up to 70% or to a max of $7,000 in wage subsidies when they offer an under-rep student a work placement. And this enhanced wage subsidy is available for 5 groups of under-rep students, being women in STEM, Indigenous students, disabled students, newcomers, and first-year students. Yeah, I skipped. I didn't have the right order. Okay, so maybe I go back to the first, because I gave my information there. All right. So to go back and talk about the beginning of the program a little bit, if you've heard about it, great. If you haven't, welcome to the program. And if you've worked with it for the last year, I'd love to hear your comments, good or bad. We can chat after this presentation. We've sort of survived this first year of the program, and now we have some early results and lessons to share with you guys. And first, I think I really feel the need to give credits to our delivery partners. They've not only survived this last year, they really thrived, and they've surpassed pretty much all of the targets that we had laid in front of them and asked them to achieve. The 10 partners up here are active in 8 growth sectors, some of which are biotechnology, IT, environment sciences, aviation, and clean energy. They've been working extremely hard to create additional placements, holding some employers' hands as they grow through the process of hiring their students. And maybe this is a good spot to sort of highlight how proud I feel like some of our delivery partners are in terms of the achievements of this program. Just this morning, Rob Donald, who's here, I saw him, yep, from the Canadian Aviation CCAA, Council of Aviation and Aerospace, thank you, sent us a picture of the participating students, new and upcoming, or past and upcoming, in this program, just to show that real students are actually benefiting from this program. It's always good, as a public servant, we don't always see the actual real connection and the concrete effectiveness of all the work we put in, but thank you, Donald, for sharing this with us, and I thought it was a very good illustration of the program and of the pride that everyone takes into participating in setting up here. Whoops, there we go. All right. On va aller à l'autre, je pense. So another important objective or challenge that we asked our delivery partners to reach for was trying to connect with SMEs. And so knowing full well that large employers have the resources required already to kind of tap into the student population, we really needed to extend a helping hand out to some of the SMEs to help them access that same talent pool. Also knowing that SMEs make up most of the businesses in our economy, but that they have low participation in student hiring, we really needed to get them on board if we wanted to create more of a systemic change and a culture change in terms of the broad base of employers. We had heard quite clearly through consultations that the smaller businesses need an upfront subsidy or something to offset or de-risk in the investment and the student hiring. And that tax incentives were maybe a little complex and a little bit too little too late sort of in their year in terms to make a real strong difference. And so we're very happy to report that out of the employers receiving a wage subsidy through the SWILP program, 73% of them are small companies and 14% are medium-sized businesses. So that means that a total of 87% of all the employers getting a SWILP wage subsidy are SMEs. So I think we're very, very proud of that. Success factors. So trying to kind of scratch our heads and keep making sure that we keep going in the right direction. We're trying to distinguish a little bit of the success factors to build on them and keep expanding. And so a few things that come to mind when we think about what is contributing to the success of the program for now, thinking of the larger picture and the long game being systemic change and culture of employers that understand the value and the benefits for their business and bottom line of hiring students. And so the quality of our delivery partners was a key aspect. This first point being a very sectoral focused approach that we took because we wanted to influence sort of a large base of employers in a given sector and try to create momentum on that scale. So we are happy and reconnaissant, nous sommes reconnaissants, that we have delivery partners that are true industry leaders in their fields. They are, of course, very well connected to the employer base, with hundreds of employers as their members and really well connected to them. They're knowledgeable about the labor market issues and the skills issues in their sector. And of course, they had a capacity to deliver on this program aspect. Next. The other success factor that we've identified was the connection between the business side and the employers. So this is just a quick representation of the PSC institutions broadly participating in the SWILP program. So 60% universities and 30% colleges and CEGEPs. And next slide. So I think per sector, this is just kind of a rough estimate or rough representation of the different partnerships that are being established in between the education side and the business side. And we felt as though, and we keep hearing from employers actually, that it's sort of changing the way that they interpret or that they plan on their HR and resources and skills building issues. And on this point, I guess, next. We've looked a little bit at what has happened this past year and how we sort of built up the program, and now we're really ready to keep thinking and focusing and having conversations about how we can keep building the momentum and working collaboratively to keep going in the right direction and achieve our big 100% will objective. And Benoit is going to do that part of the presentation.
Great, thank you, Sarah. I feel like I've been a bad clicker, so I apologize. I'll have to work on those skills. Can you hear me? Okay. So essentially, not bad for 1 year of implementation. We're really proud of this. When people say government is slow, well, not this time. Like it's the only time in my career I can brag about that, not being slow. So I'll take advantage of it. So a lot has been done. I think. We like to think about it as a foundation, as a starting point, as a phase one. as Sarah illustrated, there's a lot of great things that happened with the program that we've put in place that we were hoping to happen, but you're never sure how the system will react. But especially on the underrepresented students, you'll notice Sarah mentioned that we had a fifth category, which was first-year students, not necessarily because they are underrepresented, but what we heard in our consultation is that, and we're guilty as employers ourselves and managers, we all want to hire the fourth-year co-op student. So the first-year co-op students were hard to place, and you know this, are harder to place. So we considered them and provided a bigger wage subsidy, and it looks like it's working. So that's great. And the number of SMEs participating is also a great aspect of the program, which we want to grow. Obviously, we feel that the big corporations already do this. Most of them, they don't necessarily need a wage subsidy to do it from the government. Although I think it's important to point that there is a role for the big corporations, and this program was started with a what I call a demonstration project that we did with Siemens Canada. Siemens, being a German company, wanted to import the dual education system, German dual education system in Canada, and their Siemens in the Canadian operations, and that's what convinced me that the big corporations in Canada have a role to play in this, because Siemens created a momentum in the advanced manufacturing sector in Ontario with the supply chain that deals with Siemens Canada, and when the big corporation adopts something, then it influences the supply chain underneath them. So proud of the fact that there's a lot of SMEs receiving the wage subsidy, but I keep repeating to my bosses anyway and my political masters that we gotta keep an eye and make sure that the big corporations, there's a win for them as well, because they will help us implement that. And BEER, the Business Higher Education Roundtable, was a great demonstration of that. So what's next for us anyway in our minds? And I think it's a conversation that I'm having with you here today. It's not like we're having all the answers, but if we were to want to be the recognized leader in the world, or the next Germany, and have 100% of our students in a will placement, what does that entail, and what do we need to do? So from our perspective, there's a lot of opportunities right now that we can target. One is so the will concept and idea has a lot of momentum in Ottawa and the federal government, but there's also the innovation strategy and the growth sectors that have a lot of momentum. We've illustrated the projects that we have, which are focused on STEM, tend to be close to growth sectors, but we feel there's more we can do. The federal government is investing a lot of money in an initiative called the Superclusters, and the economic strategy tables, and those conversations in Ottawa are CEOs of corporations that are struggling to find talented people and want to create a pipeline to attract people to their sector and to their businesses. And these people are also talking more and more about the benefits of work-integrated learning. So it's not only universities and colleges anymore that are seeing the benefit. It's like more and more the private sector is seeing the benefit. So there's the list there, but we feel there's a lot more we can do to create to influence that momentum. So this is the list of the superclusters chosen by the federal government, as well as the economic strategy tables. You can see that the current projects that we have up and running, we paid attention to that, and we wanted to make sure that there was some linkages to those conversations. But again, there's more work that we need to do. I see a lot of people taking pictures. I think we'll make this presentation available, so you guys will have it. Unless you're photographing me. That's different. There's charges for that. An obvious next step for us is obviously expanding the will placement to other fields of study, not only focusing on STEM and business. And there's many advantages of doing this. And in a sense, there's the engineering schools in Canada, for example, are probably the ones that have the most sophisticated co-op programs, or that were the first adopters anyway. The humanities and the social sciences and the English programs, I think there's work to be done there, and there's work to be done on all fronts. There's work to be done on the employer front, there's probably work to be done in the university and the college system, but there's also work to be done with the students as well, to make them realize the benefit of doing work-integrated learning. And I think Matt mentioned that in his opening, as in keynote yesterday, but there's more and more employers now these days in the AI conversations or the cybersecurity conversations that are looking for psychology students, that are looking for humanity graduates to work on their technology. So those conversations need to be integrated into all fields of study, and that's what we're working on. And I have a graph there just to illustrate the male-female differences between STEM sectors and non-STEM sectors, and you can see that if you only invest in the STEM sectors, you create a certain bias there. Another thing I think collectively need to do, I don't see that as a sole responsibility of the federal government, and a lot of us have been raising this and wishing this, I guess, is to facilitate a connection between the students looking for opportunities, the employers that are looking for students, and the PS institutions in the mix. In the broad consultation that Sarah and I did leading up to this program, we've heard a lot of universities and colleges telling us with concrete examples how much time, how many resources they were spending in chasing opportunities for their students that were in co-op programs, and it's tremendous. So we feel that creating a WIL platform that's national, and I should say, and Sarah reminds me of this all the time, I shouldn't say creating necessarily a new thing, but having something that employers can continue to behave the way they behave in terms of posting their opportunities, and universities and colleges can continue to behave the way they behave in placing their students, but having a connector, and we like to call it the connectivity highway, in terms of all of that conversation get aggregated into a certain space so that opportunities from employers can be advertised to students in Canada. Not more complicated than that. And we chose to partner with Magnet and Orbis to do that for different reasons. But we have a ministerial project with them going on right now. Again, we see it as a first phase, but it's really promising, and it's also super promising in terms of the data that this platform could create and generate. Another important thing to keep in mind, especially if you're the big bad federal government in Ottawa, is to remember of the federal, provincial, territorial dimension and role. And obviously education is provincial, and therefore we've spent a lot of time having conversations with provinces, most of provinces, to explain what we were doing, to explain that we weren't necessarily interested in intervening in the education system. We were hopefully there to help and trying to provide an incentive for employers to hire students or to provide WIL opportunities. And surprisingly, I'll say, because I was a bit anxious of the reaction from some provinces, the reaction was very positive. And I can say from all provinces, they see it as a win-win. And they also see a role for themselves. The federal government will, I think, never, I shouldn't probably say never, but will probably not invest in infrastructure in universities and colleges. I should probably say never, actually. But the provincial government can. And there's like not all institutions are Waterloos, and there's some that need to build up capacity. So I think there's a good relationship going on here. It's a tricky one when you have many governments trying to be complementary to each other. But I think there's certainly an opportunity and a potential to be that. So that's good as well. In Ottawa, the House of Commons is currently finalizing a study. The UMA committee is finalizing a study in experiential learning. So many of you appeared at that committee, and we wanted to put a quote just from our own Christine Dawson that says, "Federal government support is critically required for the creation of a cohesive national strategy to address challenges, identify opportunities, and focus on outcomes associated with WIL." So thank you for that, because we're going to use that a few times in our briefing notes. And we've put a few logos of people that appeared in front of that committee. There's many more stakeholders that appeared, but I think it's good because it's generating a momentum as well in Ottawa. So how do you get there? How do you get to 100%? And that's the question to die for. So I've been playing with that in my mind a lot. I know a lot of you have, and we all have a stake in this. So I was trying to do the math in terms of like how do we get there? And the Business Higher Education Roundtable and RBC have published a number of 140,000 placements required in Canada in order to satisfy the demand of having 100% students in WIL. I was trying to reconstruct the maths of that, and obviously it was a little bit harder, more challenging than I would have hoped for. So I don't have like numbers and a mathematic formula that will solve all the issues here. But it's like I think I will get there in my mind. So the government of Canada will want to continue to provide leadership on this file. There's again a growing recognition of the benefit of a public good, I guess, and a federal role in that space. So that's being said loud and clear in speeches from the thrones and in past budgets, and I think we can expect to continue to see that momentum at the federal level. The Student Work Placement Program, with the current program, which again was a phase one in my mind, will create 10,000 placements, or will subsidize 10,000 placements, plus, because there's a lot of placements that our partners will be doing that we're not subsidizing. We just need to be better at counting those. And I think we've put together a model that's quite interesting. And it was important to me when we started this program to, like, there's a million examples of really great, successful partnerships between one university and one employer, or one college and one employer. What was important to me to create the momentum was to have a sectoral conversation. Rather than having a one-on-one relationship, is a sector having a relationship, like an industry sector having a relationship with an education sector. So I think that momentum is clear, and we have it, and the model can be reproduced. And as I said, currently exploring expanding that to other fields of study. The federal government also invested significantly in research internship funding, so provided a lot of money in the past budget to MyTax to create up to 50,000 research internships. It's not nothing. And NSERC as well is creating a lot of WIL. What's also interesting in that conversation is how you define WIL, and we can have a conversation for, well, we've been having a conversation for a year and a half in terms of how we define WIL, but I think a lot of people is starting to claim or count or look at what they're doing and calling it work integrated learning. I think that conversation needs to continue, and we need to agree on a common one. I've mentioned a few times the good work that the Business Higher Education Roundtable is doing. Of course, to me, this is critical. It's having the big corporations in Canada making a call for action and putting skin in the game and putting some investment towards this. So that's a game changer, I think, as well. And we're championing WIL pilots as well, some of which are not on our lists, that are championed from the private sector. So I think that's great. And the PSC institutions as well. I think the provincial government need to continue to want to be leaders and momentum creator in this, and invest in this, and facilitate the inclusion of WIL in all PSC programs, basically, if we want 100% of students to have access. And finally, I also see the Magnet Orbis platform, WIL platform, as a national online WIL platform. That is also a game changer in my mind. And the idea here, again, was not to create a new thing so that people needed to switch from what they're using already to that new thing. Let's create something so that people could plug in or can send their opportunities, and that those opportunities could be linked to over 1 million students through Orbis in Canada. And the goal is to reach all students in Canada. So in my mind, that's at least a good way of trying to aim at 100%. Yeah, that's how I think we'll position Canada as a world leader. Anything else?